Evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and as you can tell, with a slight change to your advertised programming, Matty and I are back for Around the NFL from the UK, and the professionals are in the house, as can obviously be seen from the intro just played. Then, how are you, Matty? Good to speak to you, mate.
Yeah, good, mate. Good. You know it's going to be a good show when it starts off like that. I think that's the only thing I can say is that.
It can only go upwards from there, I suppose.
I think so. Do you know the other thing I've actually noticed that's really weird? I was thinking about this literally before I joined the thing. I think other than the opening show we did of this, I think this might be my first Around the NFL from the UK with you. I feel like we've both just been disappearing.
You were picked up for that first one, weren't you? You were in there going, "You're going to be here," and then it's just like you've just been fobbing us off.
But there's been multiple contract disputes. There's been a lot of stuff going on.
There's been a bit of a holdout, hasn't you? Been holding out.
Yeah,
for
it's been pretty rough. My hamstrings aren't what they used to be, so it's been chaos. But hey, we both made it. We're both here.
And we've got a lot to talk about this week. I mean, where do we want to start? I mean, we've got shocks, we've got unbeaten teams, which nobody thought would be unbeaten teams. We've got some hideous injury discussions to discuss. Maybe, I don't know, do we start there? I mean, Monday Night Football seems to be cursed at the moment. I think I saw something where the last 3 Monday Night Footballs, Damar Hamlin, Aaron Rodgers, Nick Chubb. I mean, those are 3 things from the last 3 Monday Night Football games that you don't really want to think about, but it's kind of horrid.
I feel like there's like a full-on injury crisis going on. And I feel like it's not just one team that seems to be affected by this. I feel like everybody seems to be picking up a lot of injuries, like at the start of the season. I don't know. I know there's obviously
a lot of running backs as well.
Which feels like not like a coincidence. Obviously it's not. But, after considering the amount of drama that have been like surrounding running backs, maybe is it because they haven't been like practicing, but I mean most of them have been, so it's probably not that. I don't know. It just seems to be a bit of a league-wide crisis that everybody's just
very odd. And as you say, it's convenient in a way when the running backs were holding out. They were the ones making all the noise in the off season about we want paying, we want this, and we put our bodies on the line, we should get paid. And a lot of them didn't get the money they wanted, but they did eventually kind of get their sort of franchise tag or their 1 year or whatever else. But now we're in this, Dobbins has gone, Chubb got a horrendous injury. The list is just endless for running backs who are getting banged up, and you just think, is there some sort of karmic retribution going on with the NFL where it's like, well, running backs you caused us a headache in the off season, we'll show you. I hate to think, it's horrible, and please, I'm only being silly. Please don't think I'm don't lambast me in the comments or whatever else. I'm just being silly, but it just seems horrid for the running back situation right now. And every day you look, it's just another one's gone on. I think Saquon Barkley, he almost, he's out for this week, I believe. So
that's a big miss for the Giants as well. Big miss. Roger Goodell and the script writers just weren't happy with everything that's been going on, so they thought, right, like that
advert where you can't make it up. It's starting to become not so funny anymore, is it?
Yeah, the scene from is it like Bruce Almighty when he's like, "Oh, smite me, oh mighty smiter," and he's just actually done it. And now everyone's just
right. Actually, just break all the running backs. Let's have a non-running league. We'll just have one running back who actually manages.
Yeah, they do always say now, don't they? They're like, it's a passing league now. Running games. Maybe they're just trying to force it. They're like, right.
Yeah, maybe they're going to the extreme levels of it. Just let's not have running backs. Or if you have a running back,
now, we are a passing league.
All we're going to do is just five receivers, and that's it. Just go.
Yeah, no more running fun, which is a problem for me. Because as mentioned on previous shows, I got into the NFL through Madden, and on Madden the only thing I'm good at is running. So if
juking, spinning moves, sprints,
if that's taken out, then I am in trouble. I am going to have problems, and I don't think I'll be enjoying Madden 25 as much as I enjoy the next one. I finally got my hands on a copy. Not that literally anyone watching this is probably invested in this as well as me and yourself are. I know this has been you know, I was even having my own followers reply to me saying, "I hope you don't get a copy because of how much I was spamming accounts trying to get a free copy."
But
I
you did finally
gave
get
in.
your hands on one.
I just bought myself it. I thought, do you know what? I've had enough of this, so I went for it. But yeah, really enjoying it. But that's a conversation for another day, I think. But how about you? Have you been having a good time on it? I'm liking it so far.
So far, so good. So far, I'm liking it a lot. There's lots of, like you, I do like to think, I can pass the guy, and then just horribly can't pass it at all. So just don't do it, or do it like once in a blue moon. But yes,
yeah, because I really need to work on my passing. So I've started a save with the Bills, and I was like, right, Josh Allen, good at passing, has good people to pass to. I'm just going to make myself do it. So I've done nothing but pass. So we're like 3 games in, and my passing statistics are off the charts. Like we've got so many more yards than other people. It's going well. We also have a ridiculous amount more interceptions than other people, but we don't talk about that. Okay?
No,
the passing numbers look good.
It comes with the risk. It's the high risk factor that you're playing. Then, is it?
Exactly. I think we've
the Newcastle of the 90s. We'll score more than you. We just can't defend.
Exactly. Literally, I think running yards. I think we've made about 25 after 3 games.
Just basically a scramble from you, just panicking.
Yeah, just one Josh Allen run. That's all that is.
It's what you would expect. But we digress a little bit from the NFL, but we can't help ourselves because that's if you've ever been in a show with me and Matty, the fact that we've actually started talking about football
live, I was like, Christ, this
could go anywhere, couldn't it?
Trouble. Yeah.
This could be anywhere. So let's start with the surprises so far of the season, right? We're at a couple of teams at 2-0 that I wouldn't have put anywhere near 2-0. The Commanders.
Yes,
I think
I feel like that's
the top of that list.
That's my biggest one. Yeah, I think the only person that maybe predicted this was Alec. Obviously, Alec is not here today. If you've been following the show, Alec was very on board with the.
He was all up in the Commanders. He knew they were going to be. I don't know. He knew they were going to be better than everybody was giving them credit for. I think is probably the best way of putting
think he's just done that thing where he's gone out on a limb on a team that nobody believes in, and it's annoyingly paid off because
but I think he's also gone annoying a number of things in the hope that one of them pays off.
I like it. Good move. Good move. Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair to them, like they're looking okay. Like, I mean, I guess I'm expecting it to come to a crashing halt. I know their third game is against the Bills, which, because they're not being controlled by me, will probably be a lot dangerous. Commander's number one.
Speaking of devil, there he is. Commander number 1 fan is in the house.
You just mentioned the Commanders, and he just appears.
It's like a magnet to him. He just suddenly appears. Yeah, no, I think you're right. They've not had. I suppose they've had an easy-ish sort of schedule in. The first game against the Cardinals that everybody's going to probably be beating. Although we'll come to the Cardinals at some point because although they are 0-2, they're not 0-2 with a score line of minus 60 points against them. So they are being, strangely competitive. I'm not going to put that up, Alec, but that's exactly what we kind of meant. But the Commanders, they've got the wins. They're starting to kind of gel a little bit. Sam Howell doesn't look too bad. But if you look at that division, they've got 3 teams there already 2-0. That's going to be that NFC East is going to be a toughie. It looks like, and
yeah, I thought that was pretty nuts. Like, I'm sure we'll get onto the rest of the division like as the show goes on, I guess, because there's some interesting things going on in the division already. I think only after 2 games, but yeah, if you'd have told me like 3 of the teams in that division would have been 3-0, I probably would have put like the. I probably would have not been above them. No, yeah, it wouldn't have been the Commanders. But like, do you know what? To be fair, I'm just really happy for them. Like, and obviously the whole offseason was pretty dominated with what was going on with their ownership. And now that that's kind of been sorted out, like there's just a very feel-good atmosphere around the Commanders right now. They're 2-0, they've got new owners in. Like, I'm
selling out FedEx Field. I mean, it just seems, you're right. It seems like a new broom has come in and there's a feel behind the Commanders that makes it feel, like a good news story or a good, a feel-good story that they've needed for a while, because that has been a franchise in utter dire turmoil for a number of seasons and in dire need of a change at the top, obviously with the change in name, the coaching, and also the history of, shall we say, less than less than favourable working conditions.
I think that covers it pretty well.
That covers everything anything had to do with the Commanders or the Redskins had used. So yeah, it's they're good for them. They might not win another game, but at least they've kind of given their fans something to cheer about at the beginning of the season.
I mean, to be fair, I think if going into this season, I think if you spoke to Commanders fans and you said, right, by the time we are 2 weeks in, your ownership is going to be sorted out and you're going to be 2-0. What Commanders fan wouldn't take that scenario? Like realistically, I think you've got to look at it, I guess, in perspective. Like there's probably other teams we'll talk about here whose seasons are going to look wildly different. But I mean, fair. Just let them enjoy it. I'm happy for them as a fan base. I'm happy for Alec as well. Alex seems happy, and if Alec's happy, I'm happy.
As long as we can keep Simpson happy, we'll be all right. But yeah, ride the wave if you're a Washington fan. You've been down in the dumps. You've been lacking in something to cheer. So ride it while you can. Absolutely. So who else has caught your eye in terms of a surprise?
Well. I've made a note of a couple here. Listen, I'm gonna get my bias out of the way early because I'd like to do this, but I have put the 49ers down for this list purely because obviously the Niners are an incredible team. We know that from last year, and they just seem to have picked up where they left off. But I think I've been more impressed that they have done that. I feel like we have a tendency to be sort of pretty sluggish out the gates and not necessarily start off very well. So I think the fact that the 49ers have come out firing and seem so up for this season, I think is giving me very good vibes that they
happy feels.
Could. Yeah, I think so. I think we're not taking that time to get into gear. I guess it's always going to be a question of can the key players stay fit and stuff. I also think Brock Purdy is doing a very good job at potentially proving some people wrong.
Certainly putting some of the doubters.
Yeah, I know there's still a fair few.
A little bit. And I think, and the last game obviously gave some people some ammunition because there were a few deep throws which he sailed on, and he's come out and said it was his fault and he's taken it on board, whatever else. But at least took the shot, right? And it wasn't like it was, he didn't turn him over. Previous quarterbacks would have taken a deep shot and potentially not reached.
Could definitely have been worse.
Yeah, could have definitely been worse. But so he's been efficient. His passer rating and his efficiency has been up and about the 85-90% range again. Oh yes, dink and dunk, whatever you want to call it, but he's done what needs to be done because we say with that team, it's such a stacked roster. You don't need a star quarterback. You don't need a guy who's doing it all behind center. You need a CMC and a Debo and an Ayuk and a Kittle and somebody who can go, I get the ball to those guys. Those guys can do damage. So I don't.
That's what I mean. He's never going to be a world beater, I don't think. But he is perfect for the team. He's perfect for the situation.
Yeah. But I agree. That those first two games for the Niners, especially the Steelers game where they came out.
Oh my god, yeah.
Clinically efficient, job done, got it done by halftime. From both of our perspectives as Niners fans, a weird first game in the comfort level. It was like, is this? Hang on, this is really
very
comfortable strange.
And easy. I felt like I was still watching like a preseason game. Like it was really weird. Like especially considering, I mean, we'll probably talk about them later, I guess. But considering how good the Steelers had looked in preseason as well, I was very surprised on the other side of the ball. Actually, to be fair, I was expecting much more from
Definitely,
them.
I was expecting more all round actually, because their defense is didn't seem to cause us too many problems. Their offense was barely noticeable.
Couldn't get anything going.
Took them what almost until the end of the first half before they got a first down and a drive together. So it was a weird start. But from a Niners fans, it was like, well, that's nice. Can we have 17 more of those? Thank you very much.
More games like that. I'd be a very, very happy man.
We wouldn't all be so exhausted either, if we had games like that, because that's one of the things as UK Niners fans, you're always up until stupid o'clock in the morning, and inevitably it's going down to the last drive and the last.
Always, we love to be dramatic.
Can't just roll teams over. No, we have to make it nervy. But the Steelers game didn't do that. The Rams game was a lot closer, and maybe we'll touch on how close that game got due to the last play at some point.
I think
that was another game that was like, well, it was not as easy as the Steelers game because a divisional game never should be, right? But it never felt like it was going to get away from us.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was another game that was nice to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I'm having a good time being a Niners fan right now. Is my point. I guess to probably move away from the bias, because boy, I could talk
Oh boy,
about
because
the
we could talk about
MC's
the Niners.
angry legs for the rest of my life, but we'll move on. Atlanta Falcons, I've been pretty impressed
Yes.
with. I was pretty hot on them coming into the season, mainly just because their team logo really works with my emo aesthetic. So we like a bit of the Falcons. That's okay. They beat the Panthers, obviously, in week 1, who I think generally are probably a team that need to show a bit more. But I think the victory over the Packers is something that I'm kind of willing to put a bit more stock into. Like, I think the Packers week 1 against the Bears looked incredible. And obviously, I guess you can say, whatever, sure, it's the Bears. But I think maybe
it's the Bears and the Packers. You've got to take that with a
so
little bit of
how
this
much
history and
how much
whatever.
competition is it really going to be?
Yeah.
But I love what they're doing. Like, they're a very run heavy team, but it also seems kind of like that one play the Eagles do if they've got like a 4th and 1. You know exactly what the Falcons are going to do, but they'll just still do it because they can do it better than you can defend against them doing it.
You know what we're going to do. You know it's coming, but you can't do anything about it. And then
literally, I love it. Like, they've got a game plan and they stick to it.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, they were always going to be under the spotlight for taking Bijan, generational talent running back, and he's showing that already in the first couple of games. Some of the runs, some of the stuff he's doing. There was an ankle breaking run that a couple of the Green Bay defenders were just left for dead, and these are like NFL professional, defenders who just whiff on tackles. So that guy is that good.
Yeah.
But, and so the Falcons have gone, right, we've got him, we've got Tyler Algier from last year, who I was high on fantasy wise, and I thought was a great running back. As a 1-2 punch, they're just kind of looking at that, going, "These guys are good. Just get the ball to them, and we'll just steamroller everybody." We'll just and it's not great for carpets. And there's another generational tight end talent who is not showing up because the ball was just not going in the air much from the Falcons QB. So there's one thing, but they just look, they're comfortable in their personality and their persona, and the fact is, hey, we're a run heavy team. We've got the number 1 running back in the NFL right now. Every team would have taken him if they could have done. We're just going to use him and utilize him and lean on him, and why wouldn't you? And here they are at 2-0, and as you say, first game Panthers, okay, bit hard to kind of judge against that, but turning over the Packers in the way they did and sticking with them, because that was a bit of a topsy-turvy game. Yeah, you've got to put a little bit more stock that maybe the Falcons are in there, but then that division looks like it's anyone's for the taking, which leads me to my surprise of the 2-0 teams, the Buccaneers, who saw Baker being gritty, beating the Vikings, sticking around. It's amazing what a gritty QB with some talent can do to let's be honest, a team which is pretty thin on the ground in terms of star names. Yes, their wide receiver core is good, but it's aging. But Baker's making it work so far. And 2-0 Buccaneers, I don't think anybody would have called that. I think most people had the Buccaneers keeping that division up, as in, propping it up from the bottom.
Yeah, I don't think anyone went into the season thinking it was going to be like what we all expected from the Cardinals bad, but I don't think many people were expecting much, including myself. I mean, I quite like
Here's a question.
Baker Mayfield, but now there's
do the Browns wish they'd kept Baker around? I don't think they could have done with the way that the Browns did their business. I think there was absolutely no way that Baker would have been happily in that organization, sitting on the bench, waiting, for their, Messiah, or however it is the Browns view their quarterback position. I don't think so. Although they probably do right now, because it's not really going very well for the Browns. But I don't think Baker would have stuck around.
No, I was going to say there's two sides to that, isn't there? They might have been happy to keep him, but would Baker have been happy in that situation? Probably not. But I mean, I'm just genuinely quite impressed. I am sure, as seems to be the case with any Baker Mayfield team, no offense, they do blow very hot and cold. So right now might be all cushy And cool, happy days, good. I'm glad it's going well, but I don't think this streak is going to last forever. But I guess kind of like similar to the Commanders, like let them enjoy it, because I did not expect much out of the Bucks, like coming into this year, and to be sat on 2-0 is probably a pretty happy place for them to be right now in the post Tom Brady Buccaneers era.
Yeah, there you go. Although, in all honesty, there probably will be 2-1 after this weekend's slate, because they do have the Eagles coming to town. But the Eagles have not also been as
See,
good.
this is
This
something,
an
again, I think
right?
we'll get into this later, because they've been strange to start off this year. Like the same as the Chiefs, actually. Both of them have been a bit wavy. Like, I knew the Super Bowl hangover was a thing. But
Alec nailed the Chiefs from beginning. He said the Chiefs were going to be poor and not make the playoffs. So he might have a point, because they have been inconsistent, to say the least.
For sure. Last team I want to talk about, just in terms of unbeaten teams, which, again, as much as I love this team, I do think with recent news it's potentially about to come crashing down as well. Baltimore Ravens are 2-0. They have come out punching this year, and like, I've been really impressed, and I love the fact that they've come out of the gates. But
there's always a but with the Ravens, it seems.
Ravens gonna Raven. As of the 18th of September, obviously both Lamar Jackson and Odell Beckham Jr. are listed as questionable. Now, having got invested in the Ravens for a couple of seasons now, and then Lamar Jackson getting injured, I'm terrified. I don't know how long this keeps up for.
Yeah, exactly. It's a worry that they're questionable already in just week 3, and I know.
Yeah, normally he lasts much longer than this. This to already be questionable is worrying.
I think I saw that they're picking up Kendrick Drake.
I believe you might be correct, actually.
I think the running back they had last year, I think they've re-signed him back again. Obviously, with the Dobbins injury, they need to restock their running back situation. So, yeah, I was high on the Ravens on the way in preseason. Happy to see that they're 2-0. They've not been setting the world alight, which is what I thought. I thought there'd be a lot more passing involved. I thought they'd open up their passing game with their new receivers that they've got, but that doesn't seem to have quite clicked yet. And that could be, obviously, it's only week 2, and as we mentioned, some teams got to knock the rust off and get up to speed.
It's a big pivot from what they've done before as well, I guess.
Yeah,
actually having
they were literally
wide.
just, all he had to do was turn around and hand the ball off, or just run it himself. So
literally, it was the Lamar show, wasn't it? Really,
it was. Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm happy they're 2-0. I don't see it sticking around, but I'm looking. Yeah, they still look head and shoulders above the rest of everybody else in that division. So I got no qualms that they'll be winning that division. But yeah, 2-0. I'm quite happy with that. I'm also shocked at a 2-0 team, but from a different perspective. The other way around, I did not see the Bengals being 0-2.
Oh, he's gone for the twist. I like it. Yeah, that seems strange. Like, I keep hearing reports that they are like monitoring this Joe Burrow injury, but it looks like whilst he's playing, he looks fit. Like, it doesn't really look as if there's much off. So maybe is there something bigger bubbling?
Is something deeper brewing? And
get your tinfoil hats on. Is something going on?
Is the conspiracy theory time start to come? The banging. I mean, it did look like he maybe pulled up a little bit after that throw, and it did look like one of those awkward landing. Oh, well, that tweaked a little bit, and maybe it just stretch it out, and he'll be fine. But he hasn't really looked good. Yes, the Browns game, it was horrible. It was wet, and it was first game of the season. Browns Bengals have history, but then they were poor again last week. It was like the offense isn't firing, and the defense and the Cincinnati defense isn't there yet. It's getting there, but it's not there. Their offense is what keeps them in games, and if their offense isn't going to fire, as Alex says,
it's
easily
it could, because I guess probably a team also worth talking about. Obviously, this is a Super Bowl rematch, baby. Obviously, not from last. I'm trying to get my years mixed up.
2 years ago now, was it?
Yeah, it wasn't the most recent one, the one before, right? Yeah. It was Rams Bengals.
Rams Bengals at the Rams place where they paid their way to get the Super Bowl. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of rate that they went all out to get it. I also kind of rate their approach they're going with now. They're just doing the exact opposite. It's just all rookies.
Tear it down, rip it all down, start again. Which and I've spoken to other NFC West fans, and I've got the show on Sunday with the guys I do speak to. We all say it. Yes, you mortgaged your house. Yes, you paid a lot of money, but you can never take that ring away from the Rams. You want a ring with it. It worked.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
It got them over the hump. The approach
it doesn't
worked.
matter if you don't got a first round pick from till 2055 or whatever else. You got a Super Bowl. You're a Super Bowl champion.
Which
any other organization looked at that and went, "Hey, it worked for you." Some have tried to follow it, some have not. So fair play. But yeah, that's an interesting game. As Alex says, the Bengals could end up 0-3 because the Rams have not been as bad.
No, the Rams have been pleasantly surprising. Like I thought it was going to be a bit of a dogfight between the Rams and the Cardinals as to who was going to be bottom of that division. But I've been so impressed with them, and I think more to the point, I've been so impressed with the job that Sean McVay has done. I think after they won the Super Bowl, obviously they had a bit of a headache last season where it kind of all went a little bit
of a hangover. I think it's safe to say they suffered a Super Bowl hangover. Yeah.
Big time. And then there were loads of questions as to whether he was just going to go into TV work, whether he still wanted to be a coach anymore, and
whether some of their big stars would come back as well.
Yeah. And I think turning that situation around into a team that nobody expected to be competitive but are weirdly competitive, I just think that's so impressive. Like, genuinely. I mean, and you had the stories come out of preseason, like Matt Stafford was struggling to get on with the guys, but now the season's kicked off, it just all seems okay. Like, I really do think that's an impressive job by Sean McVay. I feel like he deserves his flowers on this. I'm willing to okay that.
I'm willing to give him a nod, but I think Alec will probably call me up and say it's probably more Matt LaFleur rather than Sean McVay. That's probably making a difference there.
Mate, it's been a long week. It's
been a long week, but I think LaFleur's there as he's taken some of the offensive coordination roles. He's taken something off of McVay, so there's a good
big time.
Yeah, that's an interesting. As Alex says, doesn't look like it will be Stafford's last season. I thought it would be. I thought.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking he might not even make it halfway through if he gets a bad injury or a bad hit or whatever else.
I know that was definitely a conversation that's been had on this show before. We were a bit worried that he maybe wouldn't stay in LA, he maybe would go somewhere else, or like you said, would just call it quits if this team was an absolute car crash. But he's been playing some pretty lights out stuff. Like, it's been pretty peak Matt Stafford for some of the games they've been in this year.
I mean, as you say, they went toe to toe with the Niners for at least a half, maybe 3 quarters.
Yeah.
And that's without their number one wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So they seem to have unearthed a gem in Puka Nacua. He's looking like the new diamond. So
these rookies have made a team. I did not expect them to, but they're playing.
I mean, they had to with the Rams team in effect because they can't afford to pay anybody, so they're having to play their rookies. But it's working out for them so far. So there you go. See, look. Told you he'd call me on it if I didn't mention it. Yeah, that quick throw wasn't around. It was always deep shots. So yeah, I think they've added that to the games. So yeah, it's a couple of surprises. It is only week 3. There are some teams that are going to turn it around. I think the Patriots, I expected them to be bottom of that division. The fact they're 0-2, surprised the Chargers. To be honest, the Chargers have surprised me. I thought they'd be better than that, and they look one game, and that's a big game. I think, as Alex says, big games this weekend. That's a big game, this Chargers game this weekend. Both teams are 0-2. Both teams were highly expected to be better. This could be, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. This could be one of those games where head coaches' jobs start to be questioned.
Yeah, come on. We need the
has to be.
Let's get it going.
I think Staley's job has to be on the line already. Even the stats are incredible. That I think, and if you haven't seen it, please go and look at Annie Agar's week 2 review where she rips the Chargers into. She lists how many yards he threw for, how many whatever else, no interceptions, 385 yards, blah blah blah, and still lost. Something's going wrong with that Chargers team to be in that position.
It genuinely baffles me. Like, watching them versus the Dolphins, which from a totally neutral point of view, probably one of the best NFL games I've ever watched. That was peak. Like that was a ridiculously good game. It was just a proper end-to-end offensive masterclass. But there was always that kind of worry that like the Chargers defense just looks a bit flaky at times, and it just kind of feels like Justin Herbert can ball out however much he wants. Like I've been so impressed with him so far this season, but the guy just can't do it all by himself. Like no quarterback can. Like, you know, we've seen that with the Chiefs. Like Patrick Mahomes can be all he wants, but if every single weapon he pretty much has is out injured, there's only so much that Pat Mahomes can do, right? And it just feels so painful watching this Chargers team sometimes. Like I always thought, you know, I've been told for like 2 seasons straight now, Chargers are going to charge her. And I was like, no, this is the year. They're going to do it. I know we're only 2 weeks in, so we're not going to panic too much. But 0-2 teams don't tend to go and win the Super Bowl. Chargers, I'm going to need you guys to turn it around pretty damn soon because I'm looking stupid.
Look, your prediction's not looking great right now, is it?
But I mean, not looking good.
But you know, as you say, you weren't the only one. The Chargers, yes, the Chargers are going to charge, but you know that tends to be, you know, late in the season when they kind of capitulate. It's like they shouldn't be in this position, and they're doing stupid
Fritz will already be going this frustratingly bad because it's not even like they're not in games. They're kind of doing what the Vikings did last year, but the other way around. They're just losing really close games rather than winning them, and it just, God. I mean, I'm not even like I'm invested in the team in that I like the quarterback and I predicted them to win the Super Bowl. Past that, I have no dog in this fight. But like. I'm already frustrated by this team. I cannot imagine what it must be like being a full-time Chargers fan.
I can't imagine there is a full. Anyway, the LA team. I was disrespecting LA teams there, but you know the Chargers fans, they've got a lot of. Let's say there's a lot of competition for fan base in LA. So I don't know how many Chargers fans there actually are, but yeah, it must be the most frustrating thing to watch and have an elite QB balling out. And then the rest of the team just letting him down week after week from a fan perspective, but even from Herbert's perspective. I mean, yes, he's on a contract which is monster, and you know he's happy there and whatever else, but it can't happen. Oh, breaking news from Alex Simpson: the Bears' defensive coordinator has resigned. The Bears' defensive coordinator, which is interesting because I don't know if you saw Justin Fields. A press conference where he literally threw a grenade, and you know, people saying he was playing robotically, and his response to it was, "That's the coaching."
I had heard that something had been said, and that he had blamed it on coaching. That is as far as I'd got. I did not realize it was bad enough for this to happen. Like, God, 2 games into a season,
2 games, and your defensive coordinator has gone. That is.
Oh my God.
That is big news coming out of Chicago. That is going to cause ripples. I mean, it's interesting it's the DC because the defense has not been the problem with the Bears. I mean, yes, they've given up some points and whatnot, but I think the offense is the one
I feel like there's more than just pinning it on the defense. That feels kind of wild.
Kind of the offensive coordinator has some work to do there because some of the offensive play has been pretty high school level, actually, looking at some of the breakdown, you know, some wide open receivers where Fields is just not throwing it to, and receivers running into the same section and running into the same spaces and whatever else. But that's big news. That's already week 2. And I mean, we were just talking at whether or not the Chargers Vikings would be the first head coach casualty, but it sounds like the Bears are self-imploding.
You know. I thought it was too early to start talking about stuff like that, but it turns out it is absolutely not.
Spot on.
He said, "I am taking a step back to take care of my health and family. I appreciate the opportunity to work with the Chicago Bears, Chicago Bells? It's not like an Animal Crossing thing. Chicago Bears, a storied NFL franchise with a rich history. I value the NFL shield and all that it stands for, and I'm taking some time to address my health. I plan to come back and coach again." Oh,
just not in Chicago. Oh,
crikey! That feels early. Oh my God!
That also feels. I don't know if that's almost unearthing more problems in the Bears organization. I think if he's taking, I think that sounds to me like taking a step back for my own health, i.e., being it part of the Bears head coaching or coaching staff is causing me mental health
not doing
problems.
it for him.
It's not doing it for him. So interesting. Big
this
news.
This is almost the kind of like what feels like is about to happen is the kind of meltdown that I feel like I expected from the Jets when Aaron Rodgers went down like 4 snaps into their season. I was expecting a bit of an implosion, but everyone seems to have kind of rallied in New York, like around Zach Wilson, because it's like, do you know what? He's the quarterback. We're going now. We gotta follow this guy. This is not who I was expecting this kind of meltdown from.
I expected the Bears to stroll that division, to be honest. I thought they would.
Like, I know they've started poor, but like it's 2 games in. Like, surely you can't be hitting panic stations just yet. Like, I get it's bad, but I mean, is it like that bad to like already start hitting the self-destruction button? That feels quick.
Seems very quick. I mean, they are 0-2. They are behind in the division as well because they did lose to one of their division rivals. But it is, as you say, it's only 2 games in. But I think the Justin Fields press conference, there's more stuff going on there. That Bears organization does seem teetering. So stay tuned.
It's never good, is it, when the face of your franchise can come up with a press conference like that? That's
not what you want from your franchise QB, is it? To turn
it's never going somewhere good if that's the kind of thing that comes out. That's never. Oh dear! Wow, breaking news on the Around the NFL from the UK.
Breaking news.
God damn.
So, some other. I hate the link that's just happened in my head, but some other breaking news this week. Running backs, Nick Chubb, it's horrendous. I do apologize. It's a horrible link, but what a horrendous injury for a running back to face. I know he's gone through it. He had a very similar injury when he played for Georgia, his same knee, in fact. But the images are horrendous, and we wish him all the best. But it looks like if you chose a letter that put in front of one of your, cruciate ligaments, he don't have them no more. That's the kind of injury where they've all gone pop and they've all gone in horrible places. And we wish Nick Chubb the best, but he's definitely not coming back from that this season. That's for sure. Not pleasant.
No, that's tough. I've got some stats written down here, but I almost feel like you don't really need the numbers. Like, Nick Chubb was clearly going to be like a massive part of this offense this year, and I feel like, again, this is probably from being a Niners fan and having the experience, but if your quarterback isn't firing, having a running back that you can lean on to be like, right, if our air game isn't working, we know we've kind of got this absolute superstar that can just run it and will get something done. That's a big thing to lean on. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, this offense, this whole organization really is still very much up in the air. So to be losing a piece like that, who clearly, after his stats in the first game and a bit that he was involved in, he was clearly going to be a big part of this. Like, he racked up 106 yards in his first game and also had 4 receptions. He worked up to 64 yards before his injury. I mean, his yards per carry
was up as well, wasn't it? He was doing, he was.
Yeah. So the first game, he was just under 6 yards, and then in the second game, it was almost 6.5 per carry, and that's not even like completing the game. So he's not only making plays, he's making like big yardage, like especially for a running back. It's not as if he's
running back to get 6 yards on your first carry. You're into 2nd and 4. That makes
a good start. It's a good starting point of the offense,
isn't it? Yeah. Wow. So a huge loss for the Browns. I know they've re-signed Kareem Hunt, almost like inevitably he's gone back there. So that should be a simple plug-in for him, but it's going to take him some time to pick that back up again. Horrible to see that. But as I say, horrible for running backs as a whole in the NFL. But wish Nick Chubb all the best.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, opinions on the Browns or like personal, whatever aside, we want these guys to be out there playing football. They're incredibly talented people. At the end of the day, we, as I guess, like maybe selfish consumers, we want to see the best product on offer. Like, we want the top people out there performing week in, week out. So to lose someone like Chubb, especially for it to be like a an absolute season ender as well. Like there's no even, he might be back for, you know, like the playoffs if they're still playing meaningful football in January. It's hopeful. It's like, no, he is done. And that's a big shame for the league for sure.
Definitely. So, what are you looking forward to for week 3, other than the Friday morning football for us Niners fans? Are you staying up for it?
Oh, I'm really tempted. I am really, really tempted. We'll see. I'll keep you updated. Again, I guess selfishly, I am quite invested in this Vikings Chargers game. Mainly because I need the Chargers to stop making me look quite so dumb. But also I feel like after watching subtle plug, not that they need it, Netflix's fly on the wall documentary Quarterback. I actually quite like Kirk Cousins. I just think he's such a down-to-earth dad type guy, and I really want him to succeed. Like, especially the bit when he's like, we have this little gap in the wall for a Lombardi trophy, and hopefully I bring one home. And I'm like, go on, Kirk. I want it for you.
Just for you. Okay. He'd be okay as long as they didn't play games in the evening.
Yes, all right. Fraud watch, because his record outside of prime time is fantastic. His primetime record is horrendous. Now, don't get me wrong, I get it must be a pressurized environment, but come on, Kirk, what are we doing?
Come on, it can't be. I mean, it's become, a joke now how bad his primetime record is in relation
so
to
bad. Like, I didn't realize quite how bad it was until it, like,
until you go and look at the numbers, you're like,
oh, by the way, this is it. And you're like, Jesus, that is bad.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, Washington. Alex calling the Washington Buffalo game, but yeah, the Vikings this year is an odd one. I mean, as we said last year, they were the worst team to have the record that they did because they won a lot of their games by a field goal or 3 or 4 points. They fell into some wins that they shouldn't have done. So they were a 12-3 team, which I think they were actually. I can't remember what they were. They must have been somewhere in that region.
Yeah.
And something like that. But they could have easily been on the losing side of maybe 7 of those games that they won. So it could have been.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, even the stats predicted that, like, realistically, no team should be winning that many close games. Like, it was crazy.
It was a crazy game. And so yeah, I'm not surprised that the Vikings have, the stats teams, they've regressed back to the mean or to the norm. They're not winning those tight games, so it's inevitable that there'll be a slightly worse record. But yeah, that's a big game. Washington Buffalo. Alec can't wait for that, can he? Yes, it can be an interesting one.
I am so, like, I wish I had this enthusiasm about, like, the Chargers or a team that I've put any stock in. Like, I'm not even sure Alec's a 49ers fan anymore. I feel like he's going.
Worry. I think we're going to get Alec one of those Primark jumpers that have all of the NFL badges on.
Yeah,
wear one of those. That's what we need.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I'm pretty convinced the Bills will get this done, but I mean, I don't know. I expected them to win their first game of the season, and they didn't. So I mean,
exactly. And there's been some shocking not shocking, but some shock results where you go, oh, they'll come in and roll that team. Oh, hang on, well, they haven't. And this is one that you would look at and you go, Buffalo will roll into Washington and should just take the win and get out of there. But you say Commanders flying high, Buffalo hit and miss, Josh Allen firing, not firing, who knows. So I'm kind of, my eyes are kind of like the Saints Packers game. I think that should be a cracker as well because the Saints are doing okay. Packers are a bit up and down depending on if their running back's in or not. There's a few knocks there.
I kind of like the look of I'm liking the look of Jets Patriots as well, actually. Obviously divisional game, so always a good one. Jets probably still reeling from the Aaron Rodgers injury. They've had a really weird start to the season, obviously weirdly winning the game where they had Aaron Rodgers to start, but obviously they literally had him for about 2 minutes. And then he went down. But they still won that game against the Bills. Then they ended up losing last week to the Cowboys rather convincingly.
Badly. I think the Cowboys currently own New York 70-10 or something.
Gosh, yeah, it's looking rough. I mean, to be fair, the Cowboys are probably worth a shout in a minute actually because they are.
Yeah, we're going to get to them.
Phenomenal. But yeah, Jets Patriots feels big. I feel like the Jets probably need a bit of a bounce back game to I guess maybe get that like a bit of that feel good factor back. Like I get obviously why it's maybe not feeling quite as rosy as it was before the season kicked off. But also Patriots, they're 0-2, right? I think they've lost both their opening game. I mean, to be fair, their schedule has been savage
Brutal
as a first two games. I mean, they've had the Dolphins, who are also looking incredible to start this season, and obviously started with the Eagles, which is never a particularly easy game, even if they are misfiring. But yeah, Jets Patriots. I'm looking forward to that.
That should be a great, interesting one. Alex wondering how many points Miami will put up on Denver. I don't know. It depends on which Miami turns up, right? Because if you get the Chargers Miami, where they just air it out all over the place, they could rack up 40, 45. But against Patriots, they just gave it to Raheem Mostert, and he just scorched the Patriots. So, that's the worry for other teams, that it doesn't, you can't just go in there and go, right, as long as we stop the pass, we'll be okay against Miami.
Yeah, they can beat you both ways, for sure.
And Mike McDaniel has proven he can beat the cameraman over a 50-yard dash as well. So where do you go from that? How do you beat the Dolphins? Yeah, I can see the Dolphins putting a fair bit on Denver, but I can also see Denver putting laying a few punches on the Dolphins as well. Sean Payton at Denver is starting to get them a bit more, gnarly. But yeah,
it looks like something, but I feel like I'm very afraid to put any stock into them. Yeah, because
I'm not sure what it looks like yet.
Not that I expected them to be like totally lights out from like the word go, but I feel like I expected a bit more than they've given already. They obviously lost to
Jimmy G.
the team of the show, the Commanders, and yeah, the absolute styling that Jimmy G put on them, literally scrambling to end the game. When does Jimmy G scramble? If that's happening to you, like I like Jimmy G, but come on, if that is happening to you, that's not ideal. So I feel like this could get ugly for the Broncos. You're right. They could very well put up a fight, but I fancy Miami in that every day of the week and probably twice on a Sunday.
Yep, absolutely, definitely on the Dolphins winning that one. And nothing else really. The Steelers Raiders is an interesting one for the late night Sunday. What was interesting, you were mentioning the Jets Patriots there, that already the NFL schedulers are starting to, so we say, lose the love for the Jets. I saw that the
they're
Sky
being
Sports
flexed, aren't they?
flexed them out, or kind of gone, in the UK, Sky Sports, the main broadcasting channel, actually put a vote up for the NFL UK fans to decide which game they should show rather than the Patriots Jets game. That's how quickly the shine and the lure of Aaron Rodgers and the Jets has gone now that it's no longer Aaron Rodgers. It's harsh to think, we were going to show you at the 6 o'clock game, but now we want to show anything other than you. Please tell us what to show.
Like I get it. Like I guess the product is inferior, right? Like any team that used to have Aaron Rodgers and now doesn't is going to be a different thing. But that feels pretty feral. Getting rid of them already. I think they're still an interesting team to follow. Like for reasons we've already spoken about.
Yeah, definitely you want to watch it, but it's now car crash TV rather than prime time.
Yeah, it's a different thing for sure. Yeah, I want to watch them because I'm sure it's going to go potentially horribly wrong, but we'll see. Potentially teams that are going to get dunked on. Looking at Cowboys Cardinals Sunday night. I mean, again,
let's see. Yeah, so the Cowboys put 40 easy points on the Giants.
Without reply, by the way. 40-0. What a way to kick a season off.
And the majority of those, and a lot of those points didn't come from the offense. So the offense didn't really get going.
They didn't have
to. And they
still
put 40. I think they put 21 points on them in the first quarter.
It was
unheard
savage.
It was a beatdown. And then they just continued that against, the now, Zach Wilson-led Jets, who was he wasn't seeing so many ghosts, but he wasn't Aaron Rodgers, and he was still, a second-year rookie QB. That's your third year now. Anyway, I think he's third year, but let's be honest, his second year could be a write-off because he was pulled and benched for anybody they could find who fitted into a Jets uniform, it seemed, at some point.
Very true.
So, not surprised, but the Cowboys, they are good. They are good this year. They look the business. They do look they look closer to the Eagles and Niners than I thought they would do at the beginning of the season. I thought Niners Eagles were 1-2, Cowboys were third, but they were a bit
obviously
below.
With how the playoffs work. Yeah, it was always going to be a bit lower down. Yeah, I know there was a lot of talk kind of preseason about how the Cowboys could potentially like sneak the division away from the Eagles. And I think before anything kicked off, it just felt a bit like, oh, it's just people talking up the Cowboys. That's just kind of what happens. Like, the Cowboys are America's team. Yeah. They were the star. Yeah, get it. Fine. It was always kind of felt like very much preseason chat. But I think seeing how the Eagles have kind of stuttered out of the gate a bit. Like, they're still 2-0, so like it's not panic stations, but I mean, they have looked far from the team that went toe to toe with KC in the final last year.
Yeah, they've not looked fluid. They've not looked together. They're still a bit disjointed. There was
absolutely.
I don't know if you saw it, but there was arguments on the sideline from your star receiver saying, "Throw me the ball. Why are you throwing it to others? I want the ball." It's like you don't really need any divas on a team. If you want to win something, you need to have all of you pulling together. You don't want to be any individuals. So yeah, all is not well in Philly just yet.
No, and I'm sure they'll figure it out. Like, I think you don't just go from being as well-oiled a team to a team that can't put it together like over the space of one off season. Like, that just doesn't happen. There's not been any ridiculous like major shakeups to make me think that's going to happen. So I'm sure they'll pull it together. I'm sure they'll be okay in the end. But I think, if their kind of stuttering start continues, and maybe if a high-flying Bucks manage to cause a little upset here, I don't really see the Cardinals doing anything against the Cowboys. I don't want to be terribly, terribly defeatist, but not feeling that from a Cardinals point of view. I think maybe if you're a Cards fan, I don't know if that one's maybe worth tuning in for, to be perfectly rash. But yeah, I think the Cowboys could sneak this division. I think if Philly don't get a grip on things quickly,
they could see themselves 2 games behind very quickly.
This one, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think they are looking like one of the teams to beat. And yeah, as you say, the Eagles not being at the races could easily. And the Buccaneers, as you say, they're going into Florida, they're going into Tampa. Who knows what Baker's going to turn up?
Yeah,
it could be they could stumble there. Cowboys are definitely not going to lose at the Cardinals.
Surely not. And to be fair,
Dobbs has taken a massive step forward. That second week, it was better. Not surprising for a guy who was like shipped into the organization 3 days before the kickoff day. Of course, he looked a bit rough week 1. Looked good when looked, in and around it for week 2, which I think is all Cardinals fans can hope for, right? Not to be blown out. If they can be in it, half, 3/4. I don't think any Cardinals fans expecting a winning season. I'm not sure any Cardinals fan expecting more than 2 or 3 wins, to be honest.
No, I mean, I was streaming the other day. One of my very good friends and regular viewer, he's a hardcore Cardinals fan. He's one of the reasons I got into the NFL in the first place. And I literally asked him, I was like, what are you expecting from this season? And just straight away, he was like, we're tanking, number 1 overall pick incoming. And I was like, yep, okay, good to know you've got a realistic view on
as I say, the NFC West show, Jason on there, he's also expecting the draft pick for the Cardinals to be very high this year.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they've got 2 very high picks because they fleeced the Texans for theirs. So they could, in theory, end up having the number 1 and the number 2 pick in the draft.
I mean, to be fair, think of the potential.
Of the capital that they have.
Know, 2 players maybe don't necessarily make a whole team. If they want to use both those picks, even if they wanted
They're selling the top one. They're selling the first one. Somebody wants Caleb Williams. They are selling their first pick. They can't take him because Kyler Murray's draft capital and draft hit and cap hit for the Cardinals is huge.
Yeah, this is the problem. I think a lot of what they do with those picks depends on Kyler Murray, doesn't it? Yeah. But I think with his contract, who realistically is willing to take that on? Like, that feels like a lot for a guy who, again, I like Kyler. I think he's got a good like skill set. I think
athleticism is amazing.
Yeah,
is it upstairs? Is the question.
There's so many questions about him, and I think if you're going to be making that kind of investment in a player, I don't really know if you can afford to have those kind of questions. Now, this would be spicy. The Purdy Lance Bowl, both teams 5-0.
Oh yeah, Well, 4-0. Well, it can't be 4 and can't both be 5-0 if it's week 5.
That's true. Yeah, we counting the last preseason game as well.
Yeah, but yeah, I think I can see that easily happening. To be honest, because I think the Niners have got the Giants, and then I think we've got the Cardinals. I think so.
It's Niners Giants this week. Then where are we?
I think it's the Cardinals.
It is indeed. So you'd imagine we'd be 4-0.
We'd be rolling in there 4-0 in Fleet Week, I think it's called, in San Francisco.
Cowboys
so
have got Cardinals, and then they've got the Patriots the week after, which might be a tougher game. But if they keep playing like they're playing, I wouldn't expect either of these teams to be anything other than 4-0. Yeah, for sure.
So that would be an interesting Sunday night primetime game. That's going to be Clash of the Titans. Is going to, the NFL and Fox, they're going to go all out on that one. It's going to have
the Twitter account is going to be going crazy. Like this is going to be
everybody's going to be up for that. And I think you're right. I think both teams could easily come into that being unbeaten. I can see the Eagles probably have slipped up by then, and therefore
I think
potentially these two being the only NFC teams that would still be unbeaten at that point.
I also I feel like another thing that probably fuels this whole Niners Cowboys thing is just like the recent playoff meetings have not failed to live up to drama. They've always been big occasions. There's always been very big storylines going on. Like I always feel like when the Cowboys play the Niners, it almost feels like a divisional game. Like I feel like the tackles are a bit harder, and the touchdowns mean a bit more, and the first downs are celebrated a bit harder than, like these two just feel like there is a beef there. I know they're not like division rivals and maybe not like direct competitors, but it definitely feels like there's something there. It's more than just your regular season game.
It is. And for fans of the Niners and fans of the Cowboys who, should we say, have been around and been invested in the game a little longer, this is the rivalry from the 90s. This was it. These two teams, if this was the NFC Championship games, these were the two teams that whoever won the NFC Championship game won the Super Bowl.
Sure.
Right. And yes, there is beef. I loathe the Cowboys with a passion, much more than the Seahawks, much more than our divisional rivals. The Cowboys are the ones. Always.
I've definitely got that feeling. 100%.
Yeah, always when we play them, it's like, gotta beat the Cowboys. And it's not like beat LA, where it's like it's a hashtag and everyone's like, yeah, beat LA. But 9 in a row we've done that now. That's not a big thing. Yeah. The Cowboys is more of it's a swear word, beat LA type thing. Beat Cowboys. It's that kind of ingrained. You're the same from the UK. It's like an Arsenal, Tottenham. It's a United City. It's that, even though it's not that local, it's that level of rivalry and that level of storied franchise history, I think. And it's teams, and yes, both teams have faded from that original, the 90s glory times, and one of the things as a Niners fan, it grates me terribly when everyone goes, "Oh, how long's it been since the Cowboys have won the Super Bowl?" And it's like, one less year than us, guys. Can you not say that? Just to point that out, can you just not say that?
Because it's not as big a flex as you think it is holding that over them.
Great. Yeah. So but no, there is beef there. So that game's going to be massive on all sorts of levels. I think both teams being probably unbeaten.
Yeah. It just even feels like, watching our last, because I remember watching us in the playoffs against them, obviously way earlier this year. But I mean, you can just feel it. Like, even obviously, I am, or both of us are, however far away we are from that game of football going on, but you can feel the tension, like through the screen, like you can tell the commentators and the announcers know the occasion of that game. Like, it's not just any other playoff game. Obviously, all playoff games have massive implications and are huge, but you can feel the tension whenever the Niners and the Cowboys lace up those cleats and run out the tunnels. Like, it's
it's cranked up, isn't it? It's cranked up.
Big time.
It's interesting as we talk about Murray there. Jay's just jumped in saying could go in a trade if somebody took his contract on, but
that's the problem, isn't it? It's the contract.
Titans are a good shout there, but if the Titans are going to go all in and spend money and spend big, then throw your why would you take the risk on Murray? Why wouldn't you then go all in on Caleb Williams and throw your draft picks at the Cardinals and say,
that's what I mean. Then I think the draft
I'd
picks is
rather
still a
have
problem,
him.
right?
I'd rather have him here, have my first, second, third for the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's my franchise guy, rather than I'll take your franchise guy on the contract that you've given him coming off of a really bad knee injury and with all of the doesn't study history. That's a toughie there.
I think that's almost the worst bit. So I think if you look at it as purely just from like a talent point of view, like I don't think there's many people that would doubt like Kyler's talent and natural ability. Like I don't think anyone would, but I think it's just all of the questions surrounding that make it so much more of a like muggy proposition. I think, right? Whereas you've maybe got just because it's probably like the best example I can think of right now, but maybe let's say someone like Brock Purdy, who maybe isn't the most talented person in the world, but there can be literally zero questions about his attitude. Or maybe like Tua Tagovailoa. Obviously, he's proved himself now, but in years previous, there were a lot of questions about this guy, and he did nothing but work his absolute behind off to prove everybody wrong. And I feel like Kyler's got all these questions, and maybe with injury and stuff, hasn't had the chance to prove everyone wrong, but it's not ideal to have all of this stuff still lingering. Yeah, it's like it feels like this stuff should have probably gone away now.
He shouldn't have had to have it written into a contract to study film, right?
No, that's never a good look. That's never a good look.
Yeah, there you go. As Jay's come back saying he'd rather have Williams in a draft. Yeah, that's the thing. Do other teams? I know we've talked about the Cardinals not being a winning team and whatever else, but when do other teams start to go, oh, hang on, we maybe should be not winning games here. We might want to not put too much emphasis on the next 4 games and be in the mix for Caleb Williams. He is generational talent. He is an amazing QB. There are other, also just to point out, there are other really good QBs coming out.
It's going to be a good college as well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you've got Penix coming out of Washington. You've got Bo Nix, maybe eventually graduating, but he will potentially be one of the oldest QBs in the league when he does eventually graduate from Oregon.
Yeah.
Jordan Travis coming out of FSU. So there's a number of good guys out there, not just Caleb Williams, but Caleb Williams is head and shoulders above and ready to play in the NFL. So yeah, I can understand that this some teams will already be looking that way. Obviously, the Cardinals, Texans, and Panthers are going to be there and thereabouts. And it wouldn't surprise me if one of those teams that we're currently sort of knocking on the door of, the Broncos could implode, the Chargers could head that way. I can't see the Bears being. They can't see the Bears being that bad, but
wow.
Well, with what's happened during this show, who on earth knows? The Bears could be.
It kicks off as much as I think it's about to. This could get ugly.
Sounds bizarre. So, Matty, we've already flown through an hour, even though we came in unscripted, and
I know. Where's that gone?
Where's that gone? Shock for the weekend, then. Who have you got?
Oh,
one way or the other. I'm saying shock. It doesn't have to be a win or a loss or somebody overturning. Who have you got? What's your shocker?
The Giants.
What's your shocker and what's your locker?
Giants score on their opening drive. Let's go with that as a shocker. No, maybe not. I'm gonna go. Oh, shocker. I'm so tempted to go Commanders beat Bills now. I feel like I've been tempted throughout the show.
You've been hooked into it, have you?
Been tempted. Let's go for it. Shocker, Buccaneers beat Bills. I'm gonna Buccaneers beat the Eagles rather. I'm gonna go for it. I think the Bucks are going to be a bit of a slippery. There we go. Get your English out there, mate. I think it's going to be a bit of a slip up for the Eagles. I think it's finally going to happen. So Bucks beat Eagles. Why not? Right. I think in terms of a dead cert, I know it's probably a bit of a cop out, but I think the Cowboys are going to lay a 50 burger on the Cardinals. I think it's
there you go. I mean, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. The lock there, is it? All right. My shocker for this weekend is the Rams beating the Bengals in Cincinnati.
Oh, he's gone Bengals 0-3.
I have gone there, and then the lock. I've got the Jags completely, manhandling the Texans. I think that's a lock.
Yeah, I'm not expecting much from the Texans. Yeah,
no, absolutely not. But that's my shock and lock for this week. And yours is the Commanders the Buccaneers doing the Eagles, and obviously the Cowboys laying a lot.
I think this could get ugly. I think it could be pretty savage. The Cowboys just look tremendous, and the Cardinals haven't looked quite as dog water as I expected them to. But I'm not Cardinals fans. Sunday 9:25. If you're a UK Cardinals fan,
if you're in the UK, if you're a UK Cardinals fan,
if you're debating having an early night on Sunday or not, do it. You deserve it.
If you're debating just waking up and checking NFL.com, and this might be the week for that. When I say that, this might be the next couple of weeks for that.
I think so. It's going to be a tough season, lads. So don't pile on the misery too much. I think.
Yeah, interesting one. Just to throw that out, Jets go for a QB now that they've got their first round pick, because obviously they gave their first round over to Green Bay, but Aaron's not going to be playing 65% of the snaps this year.
Kyler Murray to the Jets, bang.
Yeah, the Jets will go for a QB at the draft and get rid of Wilson and stick their new QB behind Rodgers, because I think Aaron's going to come back.
Maybe this is Zach Wilson's recovery arc. Maybe he gets mentored by Aaron Rodgers and
sitting there
finally realizes
Aaron
his potential
in the helmet, giving him all the talk while he's there. Yeah, it could happen. And Jay Shoda Sanders is not eligible for the draft for another 2 years. He's not coming out this year; he's next year. So stick by for them. He's going to be a stud. Obviously, comes from good stock. And he will be in the draft next year, the year after, I think it is.
Yes.
Anyway, Matty, it's been a blast. Appreciate your time. Thank you for your input and your tangent conversations. I'm surprised we managed to keep it mostly football, considering
we've done pretty well. I think for a
Matt
and Gary show, that's not bad.
For a Matt and Gary thrown together show, we've done all right. Everybody else out there, thank you for watching. This is Around the NFL from the UK on the Let's Talk Sport network. And before we go, a big shout out to the founder and owner and basically face of man of Let's Talk Sport, Dan Harris. He's having to take a step back because of his health, and obviously anyone who's on the Let's Talk Sport fan or on the network knows that Dan's been ill, but he's been battling and he's been burning the candles at both ends and in the middle, but his health is failing him, so he's having to take a step back. We do love you, Dan. We hope you are comfortable. We hope you get through this period, but we love you, and we're going to be taking everything, and we're going to be taking care of your network for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I just totally echo those words. I think it's very hard to summarize everything that's going on, and I think it really puts it into perspective that things like sports, it is just here for our entertainment, and just enjoy being able to enjoy stuff, I guess. Don't take things for granted, kids. Enjoy sports, love life, but
live life when you can get it. Use sport. Sport's an amazing gift to the world, and use it in the right way, and it's been great for Dan, and he's brought a lot of us together, and we love him for it, and we wish him well.
Yeah, I couldn't have summed it up better myself, mate. Absolutely echo that.
Good stuff. Matty, appreciate your time. We'll be back next week, and I think we've got Alec back next week for a trio of us, and hopefully we'll try and get a guest on next week and maybe talk about other teams, but maybe not.
We'll see. Who knows?
Who knows what this show is going to be about? This is why we love this show so much. As I say, this has been Around the NFL from the UK, and Let's Talk Sports Network. Do all the buttons underneath, the likes and the subscribes and all those bits and pieces. And we will see you next week.
See you later.
Bye.